Welcome back to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Entering year 2 in the Matt Rule era, we got to take a little check-in with the Cornhuskers. They're looking to improve off of a 5-7 season in Matt Rule's first year, and really all the conversation is going to be with their 5-star freshman quarterback in Dylan Raiola. According to Matt Rule, he had a quote here, T-Bob. He said, by the end of spring, the goal is to have 3 starting quarterbacks. Yeah, first off, okay. I want to say this. Sure. I love the quote. If you think a freshman's going to start, the team's never going to buy in if you hand it to them. So you have to say a quote like this so Dylan Raiola has the chance to earn it. And then if he earns it, I think the team will fall in place. So I love it. You can't do this with a freshman. But what's your opinion on this? What's your expectations for the freshman?
What did Austin Powers say back in the day? Well, I want a golden toilet, love, but we can't get everything, can we? Like, yeah, of course you want 3 quarterbacks that could start, Hey, you know what I'd like? I'd like to have another Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback while we're just talking about it. But yes, no, look, Dylan Raiola has to win an open competition. Or at least if it's close, maybe you can put your thumb in the scale for him. But the path to madness or the path to failure lies in just crowning him the starter without him having to clearly beat out the other guys in the upperclassmen and in the team's eyes. That said, you can give him the first opportunities to do so. And that said, he should not have a problem, in theory, Jake, going against what Nebraska has at that position because it was awful.
Right.
There is literally nowhere to go but up. And I'm the idiot that spent an entire offseason last year championing the Jeff Sims transfer only to watch him fumble the ball 17,000 times.
Right.
Nebraska turned it over 31 times, guys. That's dead last in the country. Yep. The worst team. They threw 20 picks. Raiola can't be worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we'll get into it. I think Nebraska's going to improve. I think Raiola is going to be good, but it's almost because he can't be worse.
Yeah, no, that's really it right here for Nebraska. Before we talk about having 3 starting quarterbacks, we got to focus on 1 starting quarterback. And before we even talking about an actual producing starting quarterback, you have to eliminate the mistakes. I mean, Nebraska beat themselves. I think they could have been a 7 or 8 win team last year easily if they eliminated even half those mistakes. It was unbelievable. And that's been their issue even before Matt Rule got there. My concern is with the freshmen, that would be the biggest concern. It's those freshman mistakes. What you can get away with in high school, you're not going to be able to get away with it in the Big Ten. So I think it's valuable that he's there on campus early, learning in spring ball right now. But the key for him is hey, you don't need to go prove that you are the 5-star and you can be the savior of the program. I think for Dylan Raiola, just prove that you're exactly where you need to be. Make the throws that are there. Throw the ball away when it needs to be thrown away. And I think Nebraska will be in a good shape because when you look at it, the defense has carried this team. Last year under Tony White, they did a phenomenal job. The past 3 seasons Tony White's been a DC, they have been in the top 25 rankings of total defense. 9 of their 12 games last year, T-Bob, and this ties it all home. In 9 of their 12 games, they gave up less than 20 points. That is a winning formula defensively, right? So what's your expectations with Tony White now entering year 2 at Nebraska with Matt Rule?
I think he's going to be fantastic. And I think that's all of those defensive numbers that you're seeing right there is all representative of why Matt Rule has had so much success as being a head coach in college football. Because here he comes to Nebraska and he asks himself, okay, what is core to our culture? And you think about old Nebraska teams, and you think about the legendary black shirt defenses, right? How you think about the physicality of Nebraska, and how do I recapture that? It's been their goal since day one, and that's where last year's team becomes so frustrating in some ways, so perplexing in others. Is that when you watch them and you zoom in, it looks better, it feels better,
yes,
it feels more competent. But the results were the exact same.
Yep.
I could see that the quality was better in so many ways, and the culture was better, and guys were bought in, and they had an intimidation factor that had not been there for a while. but they still lost a ton of close one-score
Right.
games. Like, so they still broke Nebraska fans' hearts the exact same way. That's why it's so crucial that Rule and company take a step forward, but that's also why I'm betting on them, because I feel like I saw the cultural changes. I see the foundational pieces being put in, and now with Raiola and this offense and another year time on task, I believe, like, I think Nebraska could be an 8-win team next year, and I think that would be fantastic for them.
Man, they opened the season versus Minnesota, and it was like, wow, they handed that game away. They opened the season, game one of Matt Rule era, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what they did last year. They gave the game to Iowa, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's the same thing over and over again. If Dylan Raiola can even be a serviceable starting quarterback for them, and if Tony White can do what Tony White does, which is put out a solid defense, Nebraska will be much improved. That's my expectations. I'm buying stock in them long term. They got a lot of young talent. The recruiting classes are looking there, but you got to win to sell that to the future. Opposite of the
money
future.
too. Don't forget, they've raised a lot of money, and Rule's been one of the most upfront guys about, like, look, guys, you want to win, you have to invest. Bottom line.